Morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Well, my day started yesterday at 10 o'clock a.m., and I didn't get home till after 1. That is a long day to sit in front of your tax accountant and put together the story of your 2019 income year, right? Yeah, wow, it was a long day, and I am so thankful that it's over. Still have probably 5 or 6 hours left. We're going to be doing that sporadically as we go through the month of March. Yesterday was definitely the heavy lifting. It uh, looks like it's going to be another year, another good year to be a real estate professional. Leverage all the depreciation from my portfolio, which allows depreciation is obviously one of those good things to having a portfolio of real estate. You get to take that phantom cost. Hey, Hector, take that phantom cost or non-real cost and hide some income that way. It's one of the gifts the IRS gives you. Also was able to write off general living expenses or business expenses that I would normally not be able to do now as a real estate professional who doesn't have a high income W-2. That was fun. And yeah, it's always an interesting tapestry that you create. My tax returns are about that thick. Um, Scale, it's about that thick. So yeah, it was a good time. So on to what matters, and that's the daily conversation you and I have about what's going on in the market. I do appreciate these daily conversations. It allows me to kind of stay informed, stay close, and it really does help our bigger business. And I hope it helps you. So first thing I want to talk about is all of these calls for the emergency rate cuts on the Fed. Right, the Fed is the problem. The strong dollar is the problem. We got to do all those things. Monetary policy, right? What the Fed can help control, the cost of capital, is not the issue, right? We have supply. We have the supply of stuff coming from China that is not coming to China. Oh, good. I'm glad you do, Josh. So yeah, it's a supply chain constraint, and more importantly, we have I believe we have a growing demand problem. The reason I like doing these daily shows is you can go back and watch them, and we can see, right? If you go back to when I was in Taiwan, what was that? A month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I don't remember. A month ago, I think. I told you about when we landed. There was really no kind of impact from what was going on. But by the time I left, I was telling you that demand was clearly changing. So by seeing what happened in Asia, oh, awesome, Jordan or Jason, sorry, Jason. So, and then we saw Europe, right? We saw Italy, right? So I think demand disruption is just starting in the U.S. In the U.S. And if we're seeing that with less than 100 cases, what's going to happen when this jumps to 1,000 or 10,000? So I think the U.S. is on the cusp of a demand problem, and I don't think we need rate cuts for a demand problem. I would much rather have the Fed save those bullets, the few that they have left, for something they can help with. However, I do think there's something we can do. I don't know if you all are familiar with what used to be called the Uptick Rule. The Uptick Rule was, best I remember, put in place in the 30s during the Great Depression. It basically forced short sellers to only be able to sell on the uptick. As I recall, this was eliminated in '06, I think, 2006. It might have been 8. Sometime this last decade or so. And because the machines got involved, algorithms got involved. And the reason I think the uptick rule would be better for all of us is, and last week is a great example. I think at some point the machines take over and selling begets more selling. And that's a problem, right? The uptick rule would be a natural break or circuit breaker to help bad days not become nightmares. So again, if the government, whoever SEC or whoever wants to reduce the amount of negative downside when a bad day occurs, and I think we have more in front of us, they should seriously think about bringing back the uptick rule. Now, Wall Street's going to whine and cry, and people are going to have to change their systems and algorithms, and I don't care. We need to make sure days don't get out of control. We don't need a Black Monday or whatever it was from 1987 where the market was down 22% in a single day. That'll wreck people's lives. So instead of trying to beat up the Fed to take low rates even lower, let's seriously re-implement the uptick rule so that bad days don't become nightmares. That's what I think should happen. I don't think it will. I think the Fed's going to do an emergency rate cut. If they do it at the meeting, it could be a half. If they do it before the meeting, it'll be a quarter plus. We'll do more if we have to. It's not a monetary problem. We have a growing demand problem. I sent out a note on Facebook asking real estate agents, and I think we talked about it on this channel, about asking about open houses. I'm waiting to see how open house activity is from this past weekend to next weekend and the weekend after. My theory is it's going to be down. And it's just going to be another sign that demand is changing. And frankly, it's going to be a sign for me to get aggressive, because when people get afraid is when I get aggressive. And there's lots of people getting afraid today. So, if I start to feel that there is true fear in the market and people aren't going to open houses, I'm going to make some low offers and just find out who needs to sell. And again, this is what Warren Buffett, I'm convinced Warren Buffett's going to spend tens of billions of dollars buying companies that are cash poor. So we shall see. Not sure if you heard this, but Jack Welch, the former CEO and chairman of General Electric, GE, has passed away. I did not read the article. I think he was 84, I think. But if you're in my generation, you got an MBA, Jack Welch was like the icon. And, Six Sigma and all of that to GE. So, I know he had some relationship troubles later in life with a wife and girlfriend, but, take that off the table. He pioneered a lot of things. And again, he was the icon if you got an MBA in the late 90s like I did. So just thought I'd share that. Again, the sign that stress is in the system. Look what's going on in China. One of their largest conglomerates called HNA Group started as an airline but grew via acquisition and debt, really. The Chinese authorities are taking it over. And it's one of their largest conglomerates because of their debt load. And basically, supply and demand constraints obviously hit China, right? We saw their supply index come in at 37 or 37.4. We talked about just how crazy low that was yesterday. But not a month later, heavily loaded up debt companies are asking for help. And if that happened to be in the US, people would likely call Warren Buffett or someone like him who's cash rich, and suddenly Warren wouldn't look like the idiot for holding so much cash. So again, there will be companies, even if this thing is only 6 months long, but if enough demand deteriorates and supply chain deteriorates, if you don't have enough cash, you're going to go broke. And that's just another example of debt being a problem. Did you see New York Times, of all places, is seeing slower advertising? That one surprised me. New York Times, obviously still pretty much a subscription-based newspaper. Some online now, obviously. But they're actually seeing slower ads, which kind of surprised me, right? If there's more and more people staying home and subscriptions are still strong, why are people reducing ads? Well, it's because they don't have the cash. They're going into conservation mode. which again is just another sign of what's to come, and the fact that this virus is going to have ripples in the economy that we don't see coming. I would have never guessed, what is this, 2 weeks into this national issue, that the New York Times is already reporting slow advertising. It's We're not going to see some of these things coming. I can tell you the one thing that made me mad over the weekend. Yeah, mad's the right word. Disappointed and mad is the number of let's see, yeah, Costco's crazy. Yeah, Costco. We were there. Yeah, shelves are empty on stuff. So it's crazy. The thing that made me mad and disappointed was U.S. doctors don't have access to properly working test kits. Right? There are countries testing tens of thousands of people, and we're testing, I think, less than 100 in the state of New York, less than 200 in the state of California. What the hell? I'm literally, what the hell? Are you kidding me? What is, one of the strongest economy on the planet not ready and doesn't have access to properly working tests? That makes me so mad and disappointed in the data that we have today. That is probably much, much, much worse in the U.S. I'm saying, right? If you don't have test cases and you can't validate who does and doesn't have the virus, this thing's going to run amok. That's someone messed up somewhere. CDC somewhere messed up, and I did see a note that 10,000 test kits are going out. Great, you're missing a zero at least, right? It's not 10,000; it should be 100,000. Let's try to get ahead of this thing. Whatever. That was very disappointing and made me a little mad. I don't know if you saw this. Robinhood has a system-wide outage this morning. I saw an emergency banner come across my social media. That's thank God. At least when I looked, it was an up day. I don't think it'll be up. I don't think it'll stay up all day. I think we're back on the downtrend. But thank God it's not a horrible morning, or Robinhood would have a gazillion lawsuits that they're coming at their way. Can't get your money. Can't trade. Not good. Is it time to go shopping? I don't think so. Right? It's we haven't seen the pain, and it's funny that Goldman, Citi, J.P. Morgan all said that. Right? We haven't seen enough pain yet. Right? We haven't seen the whites of the eyes, or whatever you call that. Right? It's coming. It's on the horizon. If your time horizon is years, yeah, you can probably go shopping now. Warren Buffett will, I'm sure. Right? He doesn't care about that last 3, 4, 5%. He's in for the long term. If your time horizon is less than a year, you might want to stay in cash. At least I would. Again, that China number from yesterday should be telling. I thought that's one of the things that would take the market down is a 37. And again, we all talk about not believing the data. How can you print a 37 if that number is up from what it really was? Ooh, ugly. There's always gold. I got lots of comments the other day about gold being immune to the virus. I think so. Certainly a safe haven. I also got some Bitcoin things. Man, you guys aren't following me. That's for sure. I don't have any of that stuff. Digital currency, all of that. I think there will be a winner. We've talked about this years ago on this channel, but I'm too stupid to figure out which one it'll be. The 10 years, again, why bother cutting if the 10 years already doing it for you? The Fed, it's at 1.03 as of this recording, which is low on low. It's crazy low. And then I guess the last thing that sort of caught my attention is just more disruption. I don't know if you've seen what's going on in Greece, but let's see. Yes, stocks are a long-term game, no question. Some point it will absolutely come back. But over there in Greece, it looks like they are having a refugee crisis. Folks from the Middle East and Africa are trying to get into the EU. There's an island of Lesbos, Slesuos. I don't know how to say that, but apparently that's becoming a nightmare to manage with lots of increased crime and the like. So something else to watch that could flare up around the world that needs attention. So in the end, if the powers that be want to reduce the risk to the downside and really fear in the system, go implement the uptick rule. It was something that was implemented in the market back in the Depression for a reason, right? It prevented highly negative stuff. Yes, silver is cheap. It prevented momentum to the downside. If that's really what you all want, go reinstitute the uptick rule. Tell Wall Street to F off because you need to update your algorithms and the like. So what? We don't need emergency rate cuts. I think an emergency rate cut of a half point will be helpful for a day, but in the long term, it will be a signal at just how afraid we are. We don't need that. We don't need more reasons to be afraid. We already have demand and supply problems. We already have media out there talking about how horrible this is going to be, and it's under 100 cases, right? The flu kills more people. So that's what I got for you today. Again, relax, calm. If you have a long-term horizon, maybe it's time to go shopping. If you have a short-term horizon, probably better to stay in cash because this thing, as JP Morgan, Citi, and Goldman all said, we haven't really seen fear in the downside yet. So that's what I got for you. You have a wonderful day. I need to do my goals summary from the last 13 weeks, which should be fun. Kind of look myself in the mirror and see how we did. And I need to share with you my next 13 weeks. So I will try to get that today. And I have an exciting interview at 8 o'clock. So this should be very, very cool. Awesome. You're still going on your cruise. I wish you all the best. All right, Josh and everybody else, take care. Have fun. Bye.